You're 10 years old and you win the spelling bee at school. You're buzzing with excitement on the car ride home, replaying the moment in your head, already imagining telling your mom about the trophy, the applause, how the principal called your name. You burst through the front door, trophy in hand, practically vibrating with pride. And your mother looks up from her phone, glances at the trophy, and says, "That's nice. Did anyone ask about me? Did your teacher mention how I used to win those all the time?" The air goes out of the room. Your excitement deflates like a balloon with a slow leak. Within seconds, the conversation has shifted. It's about her spelling bee victories, her childhood achievements, how she could have gone further if only she'd had your opportunities. Your trophy sits on the counter, forgotten, irrelevant. And you learn something in that moment that will shape the next 3 decades of your life. Your wins don't belong to you. Your light makes her uncomfortable. Your purpose is to reflect her glory, not generate your own. If this moment feels familiar, if you can remember dozens of times when your achievement became her achievement, when your pain became her drama, when your story got hijacked and made about her, then you know what it's like to be raised by a narcissistic or self-centered mother. And here's what nobody tells you. This isn't just about having an annoying parent. This isn't about someone who's a bit self-involved. This is about a specific type of psychological wound that reshapes your entire personality, your relationships, your sense of self. This is about growing up as an extension of someone else rather than a person in your own right. About learning that love is something you perform for an audience of one who's never quite satisfied. About spending your entire life trying to be seen by someone who can only see herself. And the most devastating part? You probably don't even fully recognize it yet, because narcissistic mothers are masters at making their dysfunction look like love, at making their needs look like your needs, at convincing you that their version of reality is the only version that exists. Today, we're going to dismantle that illusion. We're going to look at exactly what a narcissistic or self-centered mother does to a child, how it shows up, why you didn't see it, and most importantly, how to start untangling yourself from the invisible web she's wrapped around your entire identity. This is going to be uncomfortable. You might feel defensive. You might want to minimize. You might hear her voice in your head telling you you're being ungrateful, dramatic, selfish for even thinking these things. That voice, that's part of the wound, and we're going to address it too. Section 1. What narcissistic mothering actually looks like. Let's start by defining what we're actually talking about, because narcissistic gets thrown around a lot and loses meaning. A narcissistic or self-centered mother is someone who cannot see you as a separate person with your own needs, feelings, and identity. To her, you exist as an extension, a prop in her story, a mirror to reflect her greatness, a supporting character in the movie of her life. This manifests in very specific ways. Your achievements are her achievements. When you succeed, she takes credit. You get that intelligence from me. I always knew you'd do well. I raised you that way. That's my daughter, son. But notice, she's not celebrating you, she's celebrating herself through you. Your accomplishment is evidence of her superior parenting, her good genes, her sacrifice. And if you succeed in a way that doesn't reflect well on her, if you excel in something she doesn't value, suddenly your achievement doesn't matter. It's dismissed, minimized, or worse, criticized for taking you away from something she thinks is more important. Your pain is her drama. You come to her with a problem. You're struggling with something real, something that hurts. Instead of comforting you, she makes it about her. You think you have it bad? When I was your age, and off she goes, telling her story, making your pain into an opportunity to talk about her suffering, her struggles, her superior ability to handle difficulty. Or she catastrophizes your problem in a way that centers her. Oh my God, what will people think? This is so embarrassing for me. How am I going to explain this? Your pain becomes her performance, and you learn very quickly, don't bring your problems to her. They'll just become more problems. Your identity is her project. She doesn't ask who you are. She tells you who you should be. She projects her unlived dreams, her values, her preferences onto you like you're a blank canvas for her to paint. You don't get to explore your authentic interests. You get guided toward the things she values, the sports she thinks are prestigious, the career she thinks is worthy, the partner she thinks is acceptable. And if you dare to choose differently, if you reveal preferences that don't align with her vision, you face disappointment, criticism, guilt trips, or withdrawal of affection until you conform. Your emotions exist to regulate hers. When she's upset, your job is to fix it. When she's anxious, your job is to soothe her. When she's insecure, your job is to reassure her. Your emotional purpose is to manage her emotional state. But when you're upset, she can't handle it. She might get angry at you for having feelings. She might compete with your sadness by being more sad. She might dismiss your emotions entirely because they're inconvenient to her current mood. You learn her emotions are valid and urgent. Mine are burdensome and irrelevant. Boundaries don't exist. She goes through your things. She shares your private information with others. She makes decisions about your life without consulting you. She can't tolerate your independence or privacy because boundaries require seeing you as separate, and she doesn't. You're not a separate person. You're an extension of her, and you don't get privacy or autonomy from yourself, do you? This is the architecture of narcissistic mothering. And if you're nodding along, feeling that sick recognition in your stomach, keep breathing. We're going to work through this together. Section 2. The specific tactics she uses. Narcissistic mothers employ very specific manipulation tactics. Let's name them so you can start recognizing when they're happening. Gaslighting. This is when she denies your reality to maintain her narrative. You remember her saying something cruel. She insists she never said it. That didn't happen. You're remembering it wrong. You're too sensitive. You express hurt about something she did. She rewrites history. I never did that. You're making things up. You're being dramatic. Over time, you stop trusting your own memory, your own perception, your own experience, because she's convinced you that her version is the truth and yours is distorted. Triangulation. She brings other people into conflicts to validate her perspective and isolate you. She complains about you to other family members. Your sister is being so difficult lately. Then when you confront her, she says, everyone agrees with me. Even your father thinks you're out of line. She plays people against each other, comparing siblings, pitting family members against you, creating drama, and then positioning herself as the victim or the peacemaker. The victim-martyr complex. No matter what happens, she's the one who's suffering most. She's the one who's been wronged. She's the one who sacrificed everything. You set a boundary, she's devastated. You express a need, she's being attacked. You focus on your own life, she's been abandoned. Every interaction becomes about her pain, and you learn that your needs cause her suffering, that your autonomy wounds her, that the only way to be a good child is to sacrifice yourself on the altar of her feelings. Love withdrawal. When you don't comply, when you don't meet her needs, when you dare to be your own person, she withdraws. Silent treatment, cold shoulder, passive-aggressive comments, withholding affection until you apologize for sins you didn't commit and conform to what she wants. This is particularly devastating to children because a parent's love is supposed to be unconditional, but you learn very early her love has conditions, and the condition is you being who she needs you to be. Parentification. She makes you her therapist, her confidant, her emotional support. She shares adult problems, adult emotions, adult conflicts, things you're developmentally unprepared to handle. And you become the parent. You're managing her emotions, you're taking care of her needs, you're being the mature one while she gets to be the volatile, needy one. This role reversal damages your development because you never get to be a child. You have to be a tiny adult responsible for someone who should be taking care of you. Take a moment. Notice which of these tactics feel familiar. Notice the tightness in your chest. That's your body recognizing the pattern it's been trapped in. Section 3. What this does to you as a child. Let's talk about what happens to a developing child in this environment, because understanding the impact is crucial to healing it. You lose your sense of self. When your purpose is to be an extension of hers, you never develop a coherent sense of who you are separate from what she needs you to be. You don't know what you want because you were never asked. You don't know what you feel because your feelings were always redirected to hers. You don't know who you are because you spent your entire childhood being whoever kept her happy. Now, as an adult, you're living a life that might look successful from the outside, but feels hollow on the inside because you don't know if any of it is actually yours or if it's all just programming from her. You become hyper-vigilant. You learn to constantly monitor her mood, to scan for signs of displeasure, to anticipate her needs before she expressed them, to be a tiny emotional meteorologist, always predicting the weather of her moods so you could adjust accordingly. This hypervigilance doesn't go away when you leave home. Now you're hypervigilant in all relationships. You're exhausting yourself trying to read people, manage their emotions, prevent their disappointment. You can't relax. You can't just be, because being required constant vigilance, and you never learned how to turn it off. You develop compulsive caretaking. You learned that your value lies in taking care of her needs, in being useful, in managing her emotions, in making her feel good about herself. So now, as an adult, you're drawn to people who need you. You overfunction in relationships. You're the therapist friend, the helper, the one everyone depends on, but you never ask for help because needing was dangerous with her, so it's dangerous everywhere else. You're exhausting yourself in service of others while completely abandoning yourself, because that's what love looked like. That's what you learned was required to be worthy of connection. Section 4. How it manifests in your adult life. Let's get specific about how this plays out now in your current life, because recognition is the first step towards change. You can't celebrate your wins. When something good happens, your first instinct isn't joy, it's anxiety. What will she think? Will this threaten her? Will she find a way to make it about her or diminish it? So you minimize your success, you downplay your achievements. You might not even tell her about the good things because you've learned that sharing your wins either results in her taking credit or her feeling diminished. You've internalized her inability to celebrate you. Now you can't celebrate yourself. You're terrified of being selfish. The worst thing you can imagine being called is selfish because that's what she called you every time you had a need that conflicted with hers, every time you chose you, every time you set a boundary. So now you bend over backwards to avoid being selfish. You say yes when you mean no. You prioritize everyone else's needs. You feel guilty for taking space, having preferences, or asking for what you want. The irony is, she was the selfish one, but she projected it onto you so successfully that you carry that shame like it's yours. You are addicted to external validation. Because you never received unconditional love, only conditional approval based on performance, you learn to seek validation externally. You need people to tell you you're good. You need recognition. You need praise, not because you're vain, but because you have no internal sense of your own worth. You need others to tell you you matter because she never made you believe it. And no amount of external validation ever fills the hole, because what you're actually craving is the internal knowing that you're worthy just because you exist. And you can't get that from others. You can only develop it yourself. You struggle with guilt and obligation. She weaponized guilt. After everything I've done for you, I sacrificed so much. This is how you repay me? So now guilt is your primary motivator. You do things not because you want to, but because you feel obligated, because saying no triggers crushing guilt that feels unbearable. You maintain relationships that hurt you because you feel you should. You stay in contact with her even if it damages your well-being because you've been programmed to believe that not sacrificing yourself for her is a moral failing. You don't know how to receive love, help, care, attention. When people try to give you these things, you don't know what to do with them. You deflect. You reciprocate immediately to even the score. You feel uncomfortable, guilty, suspicious, because receiving was dangerous with her. She kept score. She reminded you of everything she gave. She used her giving as leverage. So you learned, don't receive, don't owe, don't be indebted, stay self-sufficient even if it kills you. Stop right here for just a second. If you're seeing yourself in this, if your chest is tight, if you're finally understanding why you felt this way your whole life, I want you to leave a comment with one word: separate. Because that's what you need to become. Separate from her. Separate from her narrative, separate from the identity she forced onto you. You are not an extension. You are a whole, separate person. And reclaiming that is the work. If you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. We're building a community of people who are untangling themselves from narcissistic family systems. You'll want to be here for what comes next. And hit that like button. It helps this reach other people who are still living inside the confusion, still blaming themselves for what was done to them. Now let's talk about the hardest part: recognizing how deeply you've internalized her. Here's the part that's going to be hardest to hear. She's not just outside of you, she's inside of you. You've internalized her voice, her values, her way of seeing you. Her critical voice became your inner critic. That harsh voice in your head that tells you you're not good enough, that points out every flaw, that never lets you rest, that's her. You've internalized her criticism so completely that you don't even need her anymore to feel inadequate. you do it to yourself. She's running a program in your head, critiquing your every move, finding the flaw in every achievement, keeping you small and striving and never satisfied. Her need for control became your anxiety. She needed to control everything, your choices, your image, your behavior, and now you've taken over that role. You try to control everything in your life. You're anxious when things are uncertain. You micromanage. You can't delegate. You need everything to be perfect because perfect was the only way to be safe with her. Her inability to see you became your invisibility. She couldn't see you as you actually are, and now you can't see yourself either. You don't know who you are. You don't trust your own wants. You look to others to tell you what to think, what to feel, what to value, because she never taught you that your internal experience was valid and real. Her emotional volatility became your self-abandonment. She was unpredictable. You never knew which version of her you'd get. So you learned to abandon yourself preemptively, to shapeshift, to perform, to be whatever kept things stable. Now you do that in all relationships. You're a chameleon. You don't know how to just be yourself because yourself was never safe to be. This internalization is why you can't just leave her and be free, because you carry her inside you. The work isn't just about physical distance, though sometimes that's necessary. The work is about evicting her voice from your head, her values from your heart, her programming from your nervous system. Now let's talk about why you defend her and why you need to stop. Even as you're reading this, even as you're recognizing the pattern, part of you is probably defending her. She wasn't that bad. She didn't mean it. She had a hard childhood too. Let's talk about why you do this, because it's keeping you trapped. Defense mechanism 1, minimization. Other people had it worse. It wasn't abuse. She never hit me. She was just difficult sometimes. Minimization protects you from the full weight of what happened because acknowledging the depth of the wound means feeling the depth of the pain, and that pain is terrifying. But minimization also keeps you from healing. You can't heal what you won't acknowledge. Defense mechanism 2, rationalization. She had a hard life. Her mother was worse. She did the best she could. All of that might be true, and it still doesn't excuse the harm. Understanding why she wounded you doesn't mean the wound doesn't exist. You can have compassion for her struggles and acknowledge that her struggles hurt you. Both are true. They don't cancel each other out. Defense mechanism 3, hope. Maybe she'll change. Maybe she'll finally see me. Maybe if I just explain it differently, she'll understand. This hope keeps you tethered, keeps you trying, keeps you in relationship with someone who's actively harming you because you can't give up on the fantasy of finally getting what you needed. But here's the hard truth. She probably won't change. Not in the way you need her to. Not in a way that gives you what you've been waiting for. Your healing has to begin without her changing, without her acknowledgement, without her apology. Defense mechanism 4, fear of being the bad child. She conditioned you to believe that questioning her, criticizing her, or setting boundaries with her makes you ungrateful, selfish, bad. So acknowledging the truth feels like confirming that you are bad. It triggers that old shame, that old terror of being the defective one. But you're not bad for seeing clearly. You're not ungrateful for protecting yourself. You're not selfish for choosing your well-being. She made you believe those things because your truth threatened her narrative. Your clarity threatened her control. Seeing her clearly doesn't make you a bad child, it makes you a healing adult. Now let's talk about the grief you need to feel, because this might be the hardest part of all. Grieving the mother you needed. You have to grieve the mother who saw you, who celebrated your achievements without making them about her, who held your pain without making it her drama, who loved you for who you actually are, not who she needed you to be. You needed a mother who could tolerate your separateness, your difference, your independent existence, and you didn't get that. That loss is real. That grief is valid, even if she's still alive, even if she's sitting in the next room. You still get to grieve the mother you needed but never had. Grieving your childhood. You never got to be a child. You had to be her emotional support, her project, her reflection. You had to manage her moods, fulfill her needs, live her unlived life. You didn't get to explore who you are. You didn't get to make mistakes without them threatening your worthiness. You didn't get to just exist without purpose or performance. That childhood you deserved, where you could be messy, needy, authentic, and still loved. You didn't get that, and that's worth grieving. Grieving the relationship you can't have. You might be grieving the relationship with her that you'll never have, the conversations where she finally sees you, the apology you've been waiting for, the mutual understanding and repair. For many people with narcissistic mothers, that relationship isn't possible, not because you're not trying, but because she's not capable. And giving up on that fantasy, accepting that she is who she is and it's not going to change, that's its own grief. Grieving the lost years. All the time you spent trying to be good enough, all the energy you wasted managing her emotions, all the opportunities you missed because you were performing for her instead of living for yourself. Those years are gone, and you can't get them back. That's painful to accept. But you can choose differently going forward. You can decide that the pattern stops now, that no more years will be lost to her programming. Let yourself grieve, cry, rage, feel it all. Don't rush it. Don't bypass it with positivity or forgiveness. Just feel it. Now let's talk about the practical work of healing from narcissistic mothering, because understanding alone isn't enough. Step 1, name it. Stop calling it, she's just difficult, or we have a complicated relationship. Name it. My mother is narcissistic. My mother is self-centered. My mother cannot see me as separate from her. Naming it clearly breaks through the fog. It stops the gaslighting. It gives you language for your experience. Step 2, educate yourself. Read about narcissistic personality disorder. Learn about covert versus overt narcissism. Understand the dynamics of narcissistic family systems. Knowledge is power. The more you understand the pattern, the less power it has over you. You start to see the manipulation tactics as they're happening instead of getting swept up in them. Step 3, set boundaries and expect pushback. This is non-negotiable. You need boundaries, not as punishment, but as protection. Maybe that's limiting contact. Maybe it's not discussing certain topics. Maybe it's leaving situations when she starts her tactics. Maybe it's no contact, and that's valid too. She will not accept these boundaries gracefully. She'll escalate. She'll play victim. She'll use every manipulation tool in her arsenal. That's not evidence that your boundaries are wrong. That's evidence that they're necessary. Step 4, find your people. You cannot heal this in isolation. You need people who understand, who validate your experience, who don't tell you, she's your mother, you need to forgive her. Find a therapist who specializes in narcissistic family systems. Find support groups. Find online communities of people doing this work. You've been gaslit your whole life. You need people who will mirror back to you that your reality is real. Step 5, reparent yourself. Learn to give yourself what she couldn't give you. Validate your own emotions. Celebrate your own wins. See yourself clearly, not through her distorted mirror, but with compassion and accuracy. This means talking to yourself differently. When that critical voice shows up, her voice, you counter it with a protective voice, your voice, the voice of the parent you needed. You're allowed to take up space. Your needs matter. You don't have to earn love through performance. Step 6, reclaim your identity. Start asking yourself questions she never asked. What do I actually want? What do I actually feel? Who am I when I'm not performing for her? This is scary because you might not know the answers. You might feel blank. That's okay. You're excavating an identity that's been buried for decades. Start small. Notice tiny preferences. Honor them. Build from there. Step 7, accept that she might never change. This is the hardest part, releasing the hope that she'll finally see you, finally apologize, finally become who you needed. Your healing doesn't depend on her growth. Your peace doesn't require her acknowledgement. You can be free regardless of whether she ever understands what she did. That acceptance is painful, but it's also liberating because it means you're no longer waiting. You're no longer giving her power over your healing. Here's what I need you to understand as we close this. You were not put on this earth to be your mother's emotional support animal. You were not born to fulfill her unmet needs. You were not designed to be a mirror reflecting her greatness back to her. You are a separate person with your own needs, feelings, dreams, identity, and you deserved a mother who could see that, who could celebrate that, who could love you for who you actually are, not who she needed you to be. You didn't get that, and that's not your fault. But continuing to live as if you're still that child, still responsible for her emotions, still trying to earn her love through self-abandonment, that is a choice, and it's a choice you can stop making. You don't owe her your life. You don't owe her your identity. You don't owe her your mental health as payment for bringing you into the world. She made you, but she doesn't own you. And breaking free from her isn't betrayal, it's survival. It's reclaiming what's rightfully yours, yourself. This work is hard, it's painful. There will be days when you want to give up, when you want to go back to the old pattern because at least it was familiar. But on the other side of this work, there's a version of you who exists for yourself, not for her, who trusts their own perception, who sets boundaries without crushing guilt, who receives love without suspicion, who knows deeply that they're enough. That version of you has been waiting your whole life, waiting for you to finally choose them over her. It's time. If this resonated with you, drop that word again, separate. Let it be your declaration of independence. Let it be your commitment to reclaiming your identity from her shadow. Share this with someone who needs to hear it, someone who's still trying to earn love from a mother who can't give it, someone who deserves to know they're not crazy, they're wounded. Subscribe to this channel. We're going to keep exploring these wounds, these patterns, these ways we've been shaped by people who should have protected us. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being brave enough to see what you've been avoiding. You are separate. You are whole. You are enough. Now go live like it.